Hi, it's Lester Martin with Hortonworks University, and here with another demonstration as part of the Hadoop Essentials one-day course offering that we have. I'm going to focus on this recording on a demo I'm calling Data Pipelining with Falcon right here on the GitHub. Instructions for this demonstration are here in GitHub, just like all the others. And we're going to do a very simple configuration with Falcon. We're going to really create a scenario where we have data in cluster 1 that we like to periodically push into data 2. So try to create some kind of backup in another cluster. Like all the other demos, we have a couple prerequisites. This one just making sure we've got some files loaded up, and we mirror or take some information from some public tutorials, a couple links there for them. Other than that, the instructions, I'll be running through them. I'll just do the materials and let you come back as is appropriate. So what we have to do with Falcon, and has some one-time setups, because Falcon, while it's an administrative tool, it also is a data flow tool, but there are some administrative activities that we do have to take care of. So one of those is just some of those to get it working in our sandbox. Is first thing we want to do is quickly log into Embari as admin, and they want to manage Embari. You want to manage users, and kind of like we did in the other tutorial, we want to create a user called Falcon. This will emulate the user that exists. So I've already done that under create local user, Falcon, password, and then once that happens, go into groups, and in the views group, add Falcon to this list, and there'll be that blue arrow as well to hit. That'll let us log into Embari as Falcon, so I'll do that. And from there, what we really want to do is go to the file viewer, and we want to set up, some information under apps, Falcon, so some administrative locations for Falcon to maintain some details about the clusters we're going to set up. So we're going to create one called primary cluster, so a folder called primary cluster. Within that, we'd like to create a folder called staging. And these are just information that we'll need in a wizard here shortly. That's all the reason that we're creating those. And then also under Falcon, we're going to create a cluster called our backup cluster. Now this isn't the cluster, this is just where the administrative and configuration and runtime information is going to be stored. So this is backup cluster, new directory, same thing, a staging one, and then a working directory, some of the basic minimals. So the problem now we have is that we do have to make some permissioning modifications, and very intentionally the HDF's Embari view does not allow that today. So we'll have to do that from the command line. So I've did an SSH over into the sandbox itself. From there, we probably want to just switch to the user Falcon, which is what we already created. And in those folders, we're just going to push some permissions. So again, this is in the GitHub README page on this particular tutorial. So let me just bang them out. Just do some pretty hard pushes of directory changes, permission changes. And we'll do it one more time. Save this, chmod, this time, 755 for two folders, apps, Falcon, the primary clusters, working directory, and the Falcon, the backup cluster working. So those are not really exciting things. I guess I messed that up. Oh, yeah, 7TT instead of 755. These are not things to focus on. There's just, some administrative activities that we'll have to do. And I think I got it fixed there. And then additionally to that, once that permission change would happen, we are not going to actually exit on Falcon. We're not actually going to be able to run two clusters by the fact that we only have the sandbox. So what I'm going to do instead, as the HDFS user, I'm going to make a directory right off of our root called the fake destination cluster. And by doing this, this is going to let us create two clusters that actually point to the same cluster, and then from that, we'll pretend that we're pushing from cluster to cluster to cluster to cluster, which is just fine. Okay, when that gets permissioned, oops, no such directory. Yeah, fake, yeah, I guess I forgot the E there. Fake destination cluster. That should make it. Okay, perfect. All right, now what we need to do is go ahead and define the clusters that we have in our system. So one thing we want to do, obviously we're not logged in as admin, or we could start things, but we do want to make sure that underlying technology of Uzi is running, so it's already started, and then the wrapper application Falcon that we're focused on. So those have both been started already previously, but if not, log in as admin and kick those off. So I'll go ahead and log off because I think we're going to do something else in Bari in a minute. So what we want to do now is navigate over to Falcon. In the splash screen, the 127.0.0.1 port 8888 will let you know that port 15,000 will get you to Falcon. So I'll let you know how to log in there. And once we get here, what we really want to do is we want to create some entities. We want to create a new cluster. So create an entity, a cluster. And really we need only a few values. Most of this information has already been pre-populated to help us out. So we'll call our cluster called the primary cluster. And we need a colo name. At this point, we need a reference that we decided for our case that the owner of Falcon is going to be the one that can see this information. And then lastly, we just need those staging and working directories that we created earlier. We need to identify those as well. So that was apps, there it is, Falcon, primary cluster staging, and then working those apps. Yeah, that looks like it right there. So at that point, we can type all those in there. We hit the next button. We should get some kind of confirmation. Is this what we want to do? Sure. And the save will actually do a lot of checking to make sure things exist, permissions, etc. And we got a green message that our primary cluster was created. We need to do the same thing to define a destination cluster or a backup cluster. So we'll just call it that, backup cluster, backup. What do we say? Backup colo, I guess would be a good enough name for us. The owner again is Falcon. Again, this is our remote cluster that we're pretending that we know about. And then it's going to be apps, Falcon, backup cluster, staging, and same thing, apps / Falcon, backup cluster, working. Let's see, and if we set up our files, folders, and permissions, we'll also get a good, correctly, we'll get a good clean check. It sure did. So that's good. So what we've done so far is defined two clusters. We can define mini clusters, but this will satisfy our particular situation. And now what we want to do is create one of the simplest jobs that Falcon can run for us. You can do much more than we're about to do, but we'll create a mirror job. We need a name for this job. We'll just call it mirror test. And really all we have to identify is a couple things. The source, so we'll source from primary cluster, and then what location do we want to create as from this backup job to emulate, to copy somewhere else. So we're just going to use the old user, Maria Dev user that we've been using in the other demos. We'll let that home directory be the source information. And then our target will be the backup cluster. And let's drop that information over on that other cluster. Remember that other cluster is in fact this very same cluster, but we're just kind of tricking it in that way. And at this point, all we have to do is we have to do some kind of definition for the validity of this job. So I would just push it out a couple days in the future just to ensure we'll have a good chance to run. And we don't want any email alerts. We'll hit next. This gives us a chance to review, and then if I hit save, we'll get a similar, there we go, a mirror test was defined. So that's pretty good stuff. At this point, what we want to make sure is we have some information available for this job to pick up. So I'm going to go back into Embari. I'm going to log in as Maria Dev because we made the target, the initial source, excuse me, Maria's home directory. So let's navigate there. And user Maria Dev, and it'll copy everything it can find and read. Let's just go ahead and create another directory. We'll call it bogus, create that folder, And then in that folder, let's just put something in there at a minimum. Let's copy something new that we know we just added. So I'm going to use a file, just happens to be called well.txt. So user Maria Dev. Whoops, I meant to put bogus. That's fine. It's in our home directory proper instead of in the bogus folder, but that's okay. And there's the name of that. There's the contents of said file. Did it make it? So there's nothing too magical. So that let us have some information that needs to be copied. Here, let's just go ahead and move it real fast under the bogus directory where I wanted it and paste it there. Perfect, same file. And at this point, we want to go back into Falcon, and we need to find that job. So mirror MIRR RROR test. See if I can find that. There it is. And let's simply select it and mark it for scheduling. And it's over here in a status of submitted. After that gets invoked, it will transition. Yep, it was scheduled successfully. It's marked as running. And if you remember the definition, I think we can look at it real quick. So you can edit it while it's running. The definition over on our backup cluster is fake destination cluster. So let's navigate over to said folder and see if that job has already maintained and pushed that information over for us. So there's our fake destination cluster. And at this point, it hasn't run and shown up yet, but I'll pause and we'll take a look in just a second and make sure it made it. And it did finally, within a few more seconds, kick off and run. And ultimately, we have here in the fake destination cluster is a mirror of what was in Maria Dev's home directory. So very specifically, there was these other things that were existing already, but we created in a bogus folder a file called well.txt with the contents of did it make it. So in fact, it did. Very good news. And hopefully the quick demonstration on Falcon, how easy to set it up and configure a job, was useful. Thank you so much.